Hey everybody, welcome back to Dental Unfiltered. I'm Matt Brown. I'm here with Dr. Andrew Val, like normal. And today we have a really awesome guest, somebody that we're both pretty connected to,
Huh.
Paul Goodman from Dental Nachos and Dental Job Connect. You know, guys, me and Andrew do this podcast. We do it purely for the benefit of the community. We review products and services that we like genuinely. We offer unbiased opinions. The one place we really feel fulfilled with this is the reviews and the clicks and the likes and the shares and subscribes. So please make sure you subscribe, you click, you like, and you follow, and please leave us a positive review. So we're here today with Dr. Paul Goodman, who runs Dental Nachos. Any given time could be the biggest Facebook group in all of dental. He's probably top three or top four most influential personalities in the industry right now. I'm going to talk about associateships and hiring docs and that kind of stuff today. And I know Andrew just used Dental Job Connect, his service, and had really good candidates and did some hiring from it. You know, overall, that's one of the biggest problems right now in dental is hiring talent at any position in the practice, not just the dentist, but any position's hard. It's when I deal with dentists every day. It's like man, I lost this key staff member. I'm going to do it. It's like the biggest catastrophe in their life. So, Andrew, you've used Paul's service and stuff, and what was your experience like? And you've interacted with Paul a lot. I'd like to say a little bit, and we'll get right to Paul.
Yeah, no. Welcome, Paul. We're really excited to have you on here today. I feel like you just got downgraded
Hey,
because I heard you
me
were
too.
number two most influential. And now you're like three or four. But you know
Well,
what?
I don't. It's hard to say. It's hard to say who number one is,
Yes.
but I know that there's
Yeah,
like
I
three or
know.
four
Yeah,
names
yeah,
I see
yeah.
on up on
Yeah,
social
yeah.
media all the time that everyone refers to, and Paul's always there.
We're gonna
My
get a
aunt's
negative
gonna come
review
on
because of
here.
that.
My aunt's gonna come on here and dispute
Anyways, no, I've used
that.
Paul's Dental Job Connect a few different times to look for associate candidates. So, guys, the thing is associate dentists are one of the biggest secrets to the growth of my group. So I could not have gone from 0 to 4 startups in 3 years if I didn't have some great associate dentists working for me. I couldn't be here doing this podcast right now. I mean, it's 8 o'clock on a Thursday. I would have to be at the office seeing patients if I didn't have great associates right now. So associate dentists give you flexibility. They give you the opportunity for growth. But you have to find great associates. You have to onboard them well, and I think one of the keys for us is that whenever I've looked for associate dentists, I've been fortunate that I've had significant interest in a lot of applicants. I mean, I typically get 40 to 50 applicants whenever I post an associate dentist job. And it's because I get creative. I don't just post in one place. So I use Dentist Job Connect. So that's a service on its own. When you use Dentist Job Connect, you can also make posts in Dental Nachos, one of the biggest Facebook groups out there. So I make creative posts, where really make our office stand out from the average dental job, and I think that attracts a lot of interest from potential dentists. I post on Indeed as well, so I think just like anything else in life, you have to be resourceful. You have to you can't put all your eggs in one basket, and by doing that, it's given me a plethora of candidates to choose from. So that I really can try to find who is the best fit to come in for my practice, who's going to take care of my patients, who's going to keep us heading the right direction, who has the same vision as I do, things like that. I'm really excited to get into some of Paul's tips and tricks as far as finding great associates, what you should be looking for, and then how you can successfully onboard and implement them into your practice, because that's an important part of it too. You can't just say, okay, welcome on board, get to work. You have to have some sort of calibration onboarding system. So I'm excited to get into that today too, guys.
So, Paul, Dental
Awesome.
Job Connect's kind of new, and you got to recognize the problem pretty quickly. What was the aha moment? And you were like, "Hey, I'm gonna start a Job Connect service along with managing nachos, plus my practice, plus CE
Yeah.
courses."
Well, I think, as cliche as it sounds, the market tells you how much pain there is. So I'm actually, flattered you say that it's new, but just to give you a history of it, I graduated from all of this started because I didn't make it to play professional basketball in the NBA. That's well documented. That was my number one dream, and it failed. My parents were great parents, but they lied to me. I couldn't be anything I wanted to be. You grow to this size, you have this speed, you got to get new dreams. So this is my backup dream. And in 2002, I went to my residency program at Albert Einstein in Philadelphia, one of the best decisions I had made. I did multiple years there, 2002 to 2005, placed implants. That's where I got all my implant experience. But I loved teaching, loved being a chief resident and fellow. So at the end of the years, I would go on Dental Town, and I wouldn't be here without Dental Town. So there's a lot of uh, gratitude I have for Dental Town. I also stop posting on Dental Town because the anonymous molar roller 123 who told you they didn't know what you were talking about all the time, it got a little bit exhausting. So, but back in the day, I was one of the top posters on Dental Town. My thing was in the mag. I would always get my little thing in the magazine. I mean, I post a very controversial thing, guys, that you guys are maybe too young, but should periodontist place your abutments for implants? So back in the day, general dentists, for some reason, even though they could do veneers and high-level restorative techniques, they thought it was too hard to use a screwdriver and screw an abutment onto an implant. So they used to have their specialists do it. And this I found to be utterly ridiculous, because it's like putting a crown prep on for someone and you have to, maintain the crown. So they put these little tiny stock abutments on, the crowns would fall off. And I said, you shouldn't be letting your periodontist do this. You should be, you should have the skill set to do it yourself. This is not to throw specialists on the bus. A lot of times they did this because they were asked to. So that question was like one of the top questions on Dental Town. And I was in the magazine, and they printed out in the magazine all the responses. And this is a long drawn out way of me saying, I used to go on Dental Town into the classified and say, my name is Dr. Paul Goodman. I teach at a residency program. I teach 7 amazing residents. Would anyone like to hire one? Email me at paulgoodmandmd@gmail.com. No money, no service, just me saying I was going to try to get these residents jobs. And interestingly, 20 years later, similar things happen. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Nobody wants to come work for me. Now people do want to work in Nashville. Do you have someone who wants to come there? In the local market in Philadelphia, where I ran C courses, people thought of me as the dentist that would know other dentists. So that was the emergence of me wanting to do this, but I didn't charge anyone for it. I didn't know you could charge people for it. In 2016, I became a practice broker. So I don't know if you guys have seen the show Game of Thrones. If you have, you know it well. If you haven't, I can give you a short analogy. Jon Snow in that show goes beyond this wall where everybody lives. He sees these creatures called the White Walkers. So if your audience knows Game of Thrones, they know this very well. So he goes beyond the wall, sees these White Walkers, kind of like zombies, comes back into his town and tells everyone, hey, everyone, the White Walkers are coming to eat us. And nobody believed him, Matt and Andrew. They just said, yo, no way, you're lying to us, Jon Snow. I describe that me being a broker, going out to see what DSOs do, brokers do. I thought I knew dentists before 2016. Becoming a practice broker opened up an entire new world for me. And I found out you could charge dentists for high-level headhunting, $10,000 to $15,000 a position. But like Seinfeld, yada, yada, I wanted to create an affordable, awesome, flat fee program where people would get the most options possible. So that's been Dentist Job Connect. Andrew's been an awesome client. I admire him because he is not, what's the word for it, Andrew? You're not dentist cheap, okay? Because dentist cheap, the associate, Matt, would you agree is one of the most important positions in the practice?
It's the force multiplier that magnifies your ability to service more people.
Because it's the chef that
It's the
makes
product.
the food your customers eat. I mean, I don't understand. So if you were opening up a restaurant, Matt and Andrew, and I was like, you got servers, you got people at the front, and I go, who's going to cook there? You go, my friend's brother, I think, is going to chef school, so I'm going to hire him. So these dentists, some of it is like, it's mind-boggling. They put such little effort and are so unwilling to put time and money into the most important position. This happens today. I try to be, kind, but I also kindly annoy dentists. They go, Paul, I might use your service, but like my friend's brother is going to dental school. So if we don't hire him, we'll use your service. I go, like, Andrew, don't you want 15 candidates for your most important position? So I've really enjoyed doing it. Hopefully, to me, Matt and Andrew, I've transformed lives. I get the dentist the job. I get the practice owner less stress. To me, it is doing the work of the Lord.
Don't know who GB Black is.
I don't know if you know GB Black, but he was. But yeah. Andrew knows GB Black. When you go to school, GB Black is the guy who taught us how to do all of the preparations.
I mean,
he was but wasn't alive.
Big fan.
He was like
fan.
yeah.
So Paul, I think, I want to kind of get into,
it.
I guess, one of the semi-controversial topics that you're a big proponent of, but you really don't like the working interviews for dentists. And so I guess 2 parts to this question. One is, why are you against the working interviews? And 2, how do you recommend dentists properly evaluate associate dentists without doing these working interviews?
I love this question. So dentists do a lot of things that they feel like it makes sense, but when you look at it, it doesn't make sense at all. So my best friend growing up, who I'm going to see in a couple of weeks, is one of the smartest people I know. He's wanted to be a medical doctor, turned into a hedge fund partner, Ivy League soccer player, one of the most competent people I know. In New Jersey, you have to take a driver's test, and it's worse than the working interview. You have to show up at this fake little course, drive the car around, make sure you can use the brake.
Oh, it's a big deal. I did as a kid. It's a big deal. I grew up
in there.
Parallel
park? Right. So how many times do you need a parallel park in your life? Can you live your entire life? I happen to be good at parallel park.
I'm good at
brag
it
about it, but I live in the city. I'm excellent. Okay. I can feel the whole car. This guy, it crushed him. Everyone's going to get their license. He failed the driver's test. Why? His working interview was in February because that's when his birthday is. And his working interview, there was snow on the ground. So his working job, driving interview, he hit the curb, but he didn't hit the curb on purpose. It was covered with snow. And he failed his driver's test and had to take it like a month later. So the most competent person I know, when you ask someone to do one thing once, it is not a reflection of their skill set. I am actually good at shooting 3-point shots, but I don't make every one. So if Andrew said, I'm going to hire you to be my 3-point shooting associate, take this one shot, you make it, you make it, you don't make it, you stink. You're not evaluating the candidate properly. Secondly, we'll put the ethics aside for a second. Most dentists, if they went to their practice and they had to work an operatory 3 instead of operatory 1, if they walk in and their assistant goes, hey, Dr. Nacho, operatory 1's down, you got to work an operatory 3, how am I going to react? Like a giant freaking baby in my own office. In my own office where I bought all this stuff. I don't work in operatory 3. I can't. I don't know the chair in operatory 3. I don't know the delivery unit in operatory 3. So now you're taking people, I use it like cooking, taking them to cook in someone else's kitchen.
Yeah, and they're going to fumble
the equipment.
So right.
Now we have
100%.
Yeah, they're not going to show their best self. I can't use someone else's computer. If I show up at Nachos, I got like 10 people. People don't even know this. People do work at Dental Nachos. Like, that's not me running around with my phone. If I go to my C person's computer and I'm just like, oh, I want to like type something, I give up in 2 seconds. I freaking don't know her settings. Like, I always used to joke is when you were kids, if you woke up early in someone's house, you never knew how to turn on their TV with the remote control, right? It was always, so that's that. Then now we bring in the ethics of the patient. I use my beard trim, which I got done yesterday. If I went to my favorite place and the owner, Chris, said, hey, Paul, we have Andrew here. We're not confident enough to hire him, but we want to test him out on your beard trim. He's going to pay full price. And if we like it, you're going to pay full price. And if we like him, we're going to hire him. If we don't like him, we're not going to hire him. Good luck with your beard that grows back. So now you have your trusted patient. And I don't know who says yes to this. I don't want to project negativity, but I don't know if the patients
I bet they're not
are having this explained to them, because I did a poll on Dental Nachos, and like over 90% of people
100%.
would not want to be the working interview patient themselves. Okay. So that is my multi-part reason of why it's not a good test. It's unfair to the patient. It's unfair to the dentist. They're working in a strange place, and it's not a reflection of people's overall skills. You asked, Andrew, how can we evaluate associates, right? I do want to say in general, it's very difficult to evaluate anyone before they start working for you. The and part, not but, is you can get a sense of what they can do. So I will use my fake made up company in my head, Dental Nachos. Okay. You guys maybe met my wife. She is awesome. I just run ahead and see what happens. She Google reviews things. I'm lucky to have her, right? I mean, I would not be in she reviews things. She looks into things. So when she hires one person to help us with marketing, and Matt, you're an awesome sponsor, and we need to make a Canva for Energize promoting that freaking summer special with marketing with Matt, as an example. She has to do the Canva, show it to my wife. They work on it together. We don't just say, oh, hey, dude, Matt's our paying client. Go and do his promotion. So the other thing we can do, Andrew, is one, you could do some of the Ripe Global, my sponsor stuff. You could do Dentiform work if you want to get people's hand skills. You could do that. I have the associate observe at my practice, ask questions, get a sense for what's going on. And then I do think, I'm going to see Rob Montgomery in a few minutes after we're done with this. I'm not a dental focused attorney. I don't know all the contracts, but I do think it might make sense to say to someone, hey, let's think about 90 days. Let's work together for 90 days, see how things go. Let's see all your different skill sets. And then after 90 days, maybe come up with a more long-term solution. So that's and I have hired, just like you, Andrew, I've hired general dentist, specialist, not 1 second of
Oh,
a
this is
work
good,
interview.
man.
I know I've gone on this long rant. I'll stop in a second. But the other thing where the dentists work against their own self-interest, because some of these people get very angry about the working interview. When I ask them what other profession does it, they can't come up with one. What other service, not profession, gets someone they're not confident to hire to do work on you as a paying customer, from your floors to your hair to your food? Nobody. The other thing I share, because Dr. Arash Ahmadi is one of my close friends, a huge Job Connect fan. We've got him many associates. I got him our intern, moved from New Jersey to Missouri. Here's this, Andrew, and Matt, you might think of this too. You can't hire someone who doesn't have a license in your state if you require a working interview.
Oh,
So you're
wow.
limited.
That is a huge limiting
Yeah.
factor. Oh, that brings the talent pool way
Yeah.
down.
Right. Like, why you only want to have someone in just Florida or New Jersey? Brandon Labe, he's like one of my favorite dentists. The intern, awesome, did his GPR, working with Arash Ahmadiyya now. New Jersey to Missouri. He didn't get his No, you can't ask someone to go, oh, can you jump through all the hoops to get your license in Nebraska?
Yeah, like a month,
To
like a
maybe
couple
work
months ahead
here?
of time. Okay,
Right.
go get your license in the state,
So
then you
there's
come interview. That makes no sense.
yeah. So it's just that the only thing I'll because I was gonna say, Andrew, you're a brand where you do the correct me if I'm wrong, you
Yeah,
do
yeah,
like charity work
yeah. We
that
have a partner
supports the
program
animal
that's really
hospitals,
exciting.
or is that right? Like, I think that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I just think that's an awesome, fun thing. The only thing I can share with people, but dentists are usually way too cheap for this, Andrew. I do donated dental services. I've done it in the Halo program. If this existed, Matt, and a dentist really wanted to do something that would let someone work on a patient and everyone would win, they would set up a massive free dental day, and they would
Yeah,
say to their patients, hey, and it wouldn't be just one
yeah,
procedure for these people. You might even set up like a free 3 days, and you might bring in 2 candidates, 3 candidates, and you say, hey, at the end of this, we're helping people. The end of this, I mean, I was just at an event last night, and when you're the nacho guy, people go, can I get your help with this? And they
yeah.
love the help. There's something called Mission of Mercy. It's done in Pittsburgh and PA, and she's saying we need more dentists for it. Like, they want to do $1 million worth of free dental care in like 2 or 3 days. Like, that stuff's awesome, right? So if you wanted to do this, you couldn't charge the patient. They'd have to be. I've taught implant courses where we say, hey, this is a free implant. You're getting taught by a trainee doctor. Uh, that would make sense. But, I don't think dentists have the bandwidth. And to be honest,
I
the
I
majority of them
actually
are
love that idea
too frugal
because
to
I'll
want to
tell
do
you
that.
what, like that's something we've thought about implementing.
Andrew will do it.
Well, no, I mean, like seriously.
Andrew's thinking
Well,
about it. I can see Andrew's
Yeah.
little
I
head.
was talking with one of our associates recently about trying to
Yeah.
implement a free dental day, once a year. And I know different, dental offices and different groups will do a free, dentistry from the heart or whatever. Comfort Dental does something like that. I have friends that worked for them back in Ohio, but that would be a great way to do it. If you do a, once a year free dental day and you're interested, especially if you've got a group of practices and you've got maybe a couple associate positions you want to hire for, you got 50 applicants out there. You say, all right, here's what we're doing. These top candidates, you're invited to come to our free dental day. You get to work on patients all day there. And then you get to kind of assess the candidates that way. And you're doing it for free.
Yeah.
These typically aren't your patients. These are people in the community who can't afford dental care, but you're getting to assess, the skill level, the efficiency, the hand speed, all that of these dental candidates. So I think that's a great idea.
And how they work with your team. I mean, I'm going to do the DSN, which I know we both all love, and they're also sponsors. Someone was asking, I'm going to do a video for them hopefully today about like onboarding associates. It's like it's way more than, now we're back to the
Yep.
chef example. It's way more than just making good food. It's interacting with the kitchen team.
Me too.
It's interacting with the servers. I was
Yep.
a server for years. I had chefs that made great food, but yelled at everybody, right? And like the owner's like, you got to stop yelling at everybody. He's like, that's just my thing, yelling at people. Like, we can't work here anymore. So it's also understanding the team culture. And I just think there's fun ways to do it. Why does everyone want to be so dramatic, right? I mean, why do they also, dentists always think they're so good at everything? Like, I got to make sure my associate's so great at doing this thing. I'm like, imagine if you went to a strange office, working on someone you never met before, using a handpiece you never touched,
Yeah.
working with an assistant who's never passed you anything. You're going to do your best job, dentist? Like, no. So I hope that helps people be
I-
creative in the associate hiring process. And then onboarding's, the next step that you, I think, Andrew, you could tell me what you think. And Matt, you even could tell me when you hire someone new. I think people who hire people do not invest enough time in letting them watch other people that work there and see what they do. Either they have desperation because they don't have someone doing it, which I understand, or they have rapid cheapness where they don't spend the time saying, hey, just watch our best player. Because I was always the server that people followed around. And I was honored. My ego was honored. But back in the day, now that I look at it, I made less tips because the restaurant manager would be like, hey, Paul, you know how to talk to people. You know how to do all this. Let Matt follow you around. He's our new server. And my ego would be like, and I actually liked it because I like teaching, but you would slow me down, Matt, right? You'd slow me down. Sometimes I had to let you do it instead of me, but it was a magical way to train someone. And if restaurants can do it, dental offices do it. More time observing, getting
I think
the
there's a
feel,
lot to
the
unpack there,
language
Paul.
before you
A lot
start
of
seeing
good
patients.
nachos that you just threw out for us. So, first of all, I think your point about making sure that the dentist candidate can play nice with the team that is so important and often overlooked, because that has been one of our biggest pain
Yeah.
points when we've had associates that haven't worked out or have had issues in our group. It's because they haven't played well with the team. That they get frustrated, they get stressed out, they make people feel unimportant, things like that. So I think you're totally right that it's not just important that they can do great dentistry and that they can take care of the patients. It's also very important that they can be, a good leader and just be nice. That's all you got to do is just be nice to the team, be appreciative. That's
Yeah.
actually something we started talking about in interviews, because once I started having some of those issues, I mean, I had to let a good associate go because he basically alienated the whole team from him. So and he wasn't a bad guy. It's just, unfortunately it can be a stressful environment to work in. And sometimes you don't see people at their best in those environments. So I've started to discuss that in the interviews with associate dentists and say, hey, one of the most important things at our office is our team. We invest heavily in our team. We've got an amazing team. We delegate, we train. They're going to make your life so much easier, but you've got to be nice to them. You've got to respect them. If someone makes a mistake, you've got to approach it in the right way. You can't yell at them in front of a patient. You can't degrade them in front of a patient. You can't get stressed out and use that as an excuse for why you reacted that way. So we set very clear expectations about how our associate dentists are going to interact with the team ahead of time. And then if there's an issue, we can go back to those expectations and say, do you remember when we talked about this? This is not what we're seeing right now. So I think that's huge, guys. When you're looking for an associate, make sure they're going to come in and treat your team well. I think the other thing that you mentioned that's also super important is the onboarding or lack of onboarding that happens. And that's something that we've been working on. And honestly, something I was not at all good at when we first, opened the practice, when I first started bringing in associates. I would basically just be like, all right, welcome to the team. Here you go. Like, you know how to do it. Just go do dentistry. Like,
Yeah.
you're good. And then I started doing like calibration meetings after, 90 days or 6 months or whatever, and realized like, man, I really should be doing these before they start seeing our patients, not like 3 months later or 6 months later or whatever it is. So now, no, you're good.
Well, you want to say, Andrew, is I don't want you to lose your thought, but you ever go on those trips with people and everybody knows you just from high school and you don't know them and you're freaking sitting there with your glass of wine, everyone's talking about
Yep.
high school or college or their sports team, and you just feel left out, right? I'm telling you, dental offices do that to new people all the time. Companies do in general. But when you work for me as a new person, Dental Nachos or Job Connect, what's really nice, and I'll tell everyone here, like, dental hours are the hardest hours. They're dog ear hours. Because you want to know why? When I work for Nachos or Job Connect, and even you, Matt, our customers aren't 6 inches from our face annoyed with us, right? They might be 6 states away from me annoyed with me. But what happens is you just throw these people into your dental office, Andrew, and you expect, oh, by osmosis, they're just going to know what to do. And you actually leave them feel left out. You let them down. And it's on me. I mean, I've made many mistakes with this. And I think that's why this podcast is so valuable. I mean, I believe you should invest, like, if associate's going to make 200 grand, right? Or make it 240 grand. So it's 20 grand a month. I think you should think your first month is just investing in the associate, right?
Yeah.
Whatever
The
that
first
looks
3 months.
if I had to do it
Like,
again, that's what I do. I mean, I'm talking first month though, like no real work. The problem is we're so reactive. Me too. If my associate came to me and said, I'm leaving tomorrow, it would sound nice to invest in a new associate for a month, but like we have
Yeah.
all this list of patients who need work. So it's a balancing act. That's why being proactive and meeting people before you need them is the key. But dentists, for some reason, if I said to you, Andrew, I have 3 hygienists that want to meet you,
Oh
would you
yeah.
like cancel your 9 o'clock to talk to them on Zoom? You're like, my 9 o'clock, right? But for some reason with
I've got a
dentists,
folder
they
of
don't
about
do that. I
20
don't know why.
resumes of top associate candidates who, either just reached out when we didn't have an opening, or, maybe we just had somebody else that we hired instead of them, but they would have also been a great fit. So I've got this on top of Dentist Job Connect, on top of Indeed, on top of posting and Nachos. I've got this folder ready to go so that if I have a upcoming opening, I'll reach out and I'll email these guys and be like, "Hey, you had expressed interest before. Are you still looking for a new opportunity?" And
Yeah.
there's been times that I've talked to dentists that way, and actually, I think at one point we actually hired one of those dentists. So I mean, it is great to network, to meet people. I want to go back to the onboarding real quick and just kind of let you guys know, what I started doing.
Yeah,
I
sure.
basically over the last 2 years have created, modified, added to, but I have like the biggest PowerPoint I've ever made in my life. And PowerPoints, you might laugh at them, but I think visuals are huge. And so what I do is I have an onboarding meeting at my house. The new associate comes over, gets to meet, my wife and my kid, kind of be like, "Hey, this is my family, like, welcome to my home." We sit down, we spend like 3 hours going through this PowerPoint, and it's office systems.
It's great.
It's, what do
That's
you do in
awesome.
these situations? It's, what supplies, materials do we have? How do they work? Because, you might be in one office using one, system of bond and composite, and then you come here, we've got that total bond, whatever system. You don't have to etch. And so like I've had associates come in and they don't believe me. And I'm like, "Listen, I've been doing this for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had like a single filling come out. You do not have to etch for in most cases for this. Don't waste the time doing it. Don't create extra
Yeah.
sensitivity that you don't have to do. You just have to spend like 15 seconds really scrubbing that bond and thin it out well and light cure." But again, before I didn't explain this ahead of time. So I just expected dentists would go in and know, or I'd be like, "Oh, assistants, like tell them what to do," like that type of a thing.
You did the
So,
leadership style if you just thought people lived inside of your head and knew all your
yeah,
thoughts, right? That
seriously, 100%. So now
don't you live inside my head and know what I'm thinking at all times?
we go through that stuff. We've got cases that we go through. So like basically I've pulled cases of different patients, x-rays, itero scans, pano, whatever, and we'll go through all these. I'll tell them to put together a treatment plan, and then we'll get to the end and we'll talk about what treatment plan they came up with, what treatment plan we actually planned. And I actually use cases that I planned intentionally where I miss things. And we go over those. I'm like, "Listen, guys, I'm human too. This is what I
Yeah.
planned. These are things that I missed on this case that should have been planned." So that way we're calibrating, we're talking about, why a certain treatment plan was come up with. And again, you know, our dentists have autonomy. They don't have to do 100% of, what I would do 100% of the case, but like we want to make sure that there's some sort of calibration, that we're basically on the same page, that we understand each other, that type of a thing. If you don't take the time to do those calibrations though, you might have totally different philosophies. And then the problem is like, what if you see a patient one day and then they see that patient
Yeah.
next week because you're not there, and they're telling the patient a whole different story than when you just told them? Does that build
Yeah.
confidence in your patients? Now that patient doesn't know who to trust or what's going on, and now they don't want to move forward with their treatment anymore.
And
So
Matt, we all have kids. They'll Patients will do anything to get out of doing dental work,
oh
including
yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
lying about other dentists in the office. And like George Costanza, it's not a lie if you believe it. I don't know if they're intentional, but my great friend Todd Fleischman, who I'm so close with, he's got a really awesome office, high level fee for service office. He's got associates, and like sometimes the patients will like, I think like write him a letter and be like, "Hey, the other associate said, I don't need a crown. You said I do need a crown," right? And probably they're both right. I mean, he's such a fantastic leader and someone I admire so much. He sort of says to the patient, "This game's harder than it looks, patient," right? Like, it's not like blue car is the answer to everything. So, but what you're hitting on is it's so complex and wild to be a dentist, work in these circuses. And if you don't spend time onboarding your associate and it's a consistent thing, you're going to cry inside and outside. I mean, someone on Nachos recently said they didn't know their associate wasn't using the rubber dam for endo for 2 years. I'm
I
like,
saw
that's
that.
100% your fault.
Yeah.
I actually DM'd them like, that is 100% your fault.
Yeah.
Extreme ownership,
So
Jocko Willick, that's 100% your fault.
Yes.
it, going back to the team part of it. Well, for when you go to special forces assessment and selection, there's all these tasks they give you, and there's peer evaluations where the different Green Beret special forces candidates peer evaluate the other ones, and you can have like the worst mile run time or have some skill that's not developed, But if your peer evaluation is good and people seem to want to work with you, they'll select you even though you suck at a lot of things because they can teach you
Yeah.
skills. It's hard to make someone integrate into a team, right? And that's something that they overvalue in that world is they really value like, if other people want to work with you, that matters. And going back to the team integration problem, like maybe I think sometimes docs are so clinically, and this is something we talk about all the time at my company when we do training with docs. And this is nothing against you guys. Your whole career is clinical. You're so clinically focused, you totally miss the human turn.
Yeah.
And I think with the working job interviews, it's like we're taking the one I think, and I'm not a dentist. I think that the human terrain and the interpersonal skills of working with a team is 10 times more important than the clinical ability. If you're going to invest in an associate, you can develop clinical abilities. Then you do a working job interview and you take a snapshot of the clinical ability, which I think is least important of the two, and then you're gauging this person on that, which makes no sense to me at all. It never did.
And that's why you get the misfit. And the right fit for an associate makes your dreams come true. The wrong fit causes your screams to come out. And
Yeah.
the other thing I was going to share, because I went to Villanova. I don't know if you guys knew that, and amazing basketball program. And the Knicks are
Oh
now
yeah.
run by 3 Villanova guys, right?
Yep.
And is it a wonder that those 3 guys get along so well from the Jay Wright culture? And Paul Etchinson was at my event. I know you guys know him, and maybe I can say this, maybe I can explain this for 90 seconds. I require our associates to have completed an AEGD or GPR. And most people think this because they want them to do more crown prep. I want to say, oh, they did 25 crown preps or 100 extractions. But actually, you know what it is? It's they know how to accept feedback. And they spent a year being taught by bigger, stronger dentists who said, hey, this isn't right. Do it this way in a supportive way. Because I've dealt with dentists and people unable to accept feedback. I played a lot of sports. I did a GPR. I've been told I stink, make it better, and I don't cry. This isn't right, make it better. I'm on board. You say to a dentist sometimes, Matt, your composite is like 80% right, but 20% we can't have it right. They have a breakdown.
Oh,
And
mental
so
break.
Paul said on stage, he does not hire associates unless they've been out for 1 year. And he actually right, Andrew, it was about his team, right? He just said, hey, if you haven't been out for a year, it's not that we don't think you can be a good dentist. We just know that you don't have the seasoning to do that because they've made mistakes. And this is the reality. Many times people's associate job after dental school, it's the first real job they've ever had in their life.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Well, and let's be real, Paul. I don't know about 100% of the dental schools, but most of the dental schools, and that's a whole nother conversation about some of the issues going on in dental schools these days. But most of them, like, they're not getting that much experience, and when they are, they're getting 3 hours to do a filling.
Right.
Like you can't come into a private practice that is in network with Delta Dental that's paying $95 for this occlusal filling and have the associate take 3 hours to do it. It's just it's not going to work for your business. There's no way. Not to mention, it's not a good experience for the patient. The team's going to get frustrated. It's not a good fit. So you do have to get some reps in, just like anything else. You have to practice. I think a GPR is a great way to do it. I personally, I've never hired an associate with less than maybe 3 years of experience outside dental school. So I kind of like them to get up to speed a little bit first. And it's nothing against new grads. Like you said, I'm sure they all have the potential to be great dentists, but I think of myself as a new grad. I would never survive in my practice. There's no way.
Gretchen from my group just said she wouldn't have hired herself as a new grad, but after her first year of GPR, she would. One of the things is, this is the hard part about dentistry. You see me do it. I just want to say for the record, that basketball court is not in my house. It's in my building. So I live in a great building in Philly.
Everyone knows now.
Yeah. So Right Global, my sponsor, and my friend Lincoln Harris, they've made the basketball court for dentistry because one of the challenges is, and I get frustrated with my own community. They go, you can just figure it out after dental school. Those are real patients, Matt.
Yeah.
They don't really deserve to be treated like dental school patients. People go, I haven't done any endo. And someone goes, you could just do it after school. I go, these are like real people. Like, do you want like your endo being done by someone who's never done it before? And that's why if you don't create the ability to shoot free throws in a controlled environment where people can show your techniques, RIPE is one of the ones for restorative dentistry, right? But like you said, in dental school, the experience is so disjointed, so chaotic, with the exception of a few schools that don't have specialty programs. They're usually cherry picking all the best case for specialty program, my school included.
Yep.
And I don't know how you would describe dental school. Oh, a giant scam. That's how I would basically describe it, right? Like, hey, pay us 600 grand and someone sat in my building with me in Philadelphia, so nice, a non-traditional age student in her early 30s, second career, and said, Paul, I'm at this AGD. I didn't do one crown start to finish at my dental school. Not one crown start to finish on the same patient. $500,000 she paid.
And
she
Paul wonders why the dental schools don't invite him in.
Yeah. But my whole point is, like, it's like Truman Show. You got to call it out.
Aren't you you're banned by a couple dental schools in the Philly area.
I'm banned by the people in my own backyard. Yeah. You know,
Funny.
I always say these dental schools, it's amazing to me. If someone said, hey, Paul, if I made everyone come back in person after the pandemic at Dental Nachos, and I just said, you got to work in person or you can't work for Dental Nachos. Let's just say I said this, right? I didn't. And then people are like, hey, you know, that's really overly restrictive. You're not going to get the best candidates. I would listen and be like, but these dental schools, they're like, I see from Game of Thrones. They're like kings and queens of their own castles. And the people that go there, they have this weird thing where, like, don't talk bad about my dental school. Do you hate it? Oh, I hate it 100%. But please don't post it. So it's these great dental students. I want to share this, Andrew and Matt. I'm 46 years old, right? I haven't been inside of a dental school to know what's going on for 20 years. Mark Costas and I did go to Midwestern and spoke after hours. All of these things are sent to me by dental students.
Yeah.
So anything I share is someone saying, hey, Paul, my school's not getting any, they just reduced the endo requirement. So I think that merges with all of this. And I don't know how you do for your business, Matt, but you might want to give someone a try who's never knows anything about marketing, but you can't make them your top person.
Right.
And you can't pay them like your top person. And that's the problem. They're getting charged $600,000 and they don't want to be an intern making 80 grand and learning.
Well, here's the other problem, and then we'll get off this dental school tangent. But I think this is kind of fun.
I like the dental school tangent.
The other issue is that when I went to dental school, I learned how to do film dip X-rays.
Yeah.
I learned how to do paper charts. I learned how to do amalgam restorations. You know what I didn't learn how to do? Anything really implant related.
Yeah.
Invisalign, cosmetics, you know, less on composite restorations than amalgam restorations. Guys, I didn't go to dental school in the 90s. Like, you know, don't let these gray hairs fool you. I'm 34 years old. I graduated Ohio State in 2016. And
it's crazy.
That's the stuff I was doing. And then,
they were doing paper charts and traditional x-rays in 2016.
And then you get out and all of a sudden, like almost any practice you go into, digital x-rays, you know, Dentrix, open dental, whatever. Nobody's using amalgam. Nobody has amalgamators, you know, all that's maybe there's a few dentists out there, but I mean, either way, like all this stuff that they spent all this time teaching us, I get out and it's useless. And all the stuff I wish I would have learned, like implants and Invisalign and things like that, we got little to no training on. So I
describe it this way. I'll tell people this. Maybe Matt will understand. Going to dental school is like paying $500,000 to go to social media school and only learning about MySpace. And they sit you down and be, oh, you really got to learn MySpace, how to navigate it. And people go, do people still use that? Nope, they don't use it, but you need to learn it for history. I believe that's the worst type of teaching possible. Learning about something that nobody does anymore is a tremendous waste of time. Knowing that it existed, but you're right on. So that's why hopefully pre-dental students find this podcast and either find the right dental school or understand, depending on their personality type, that they're going to have to invest a lot of hours, money, and time, and just think of their $500,000 degree as sometimes literally the piece of paper that gets them the ticket into dentistry, but not the ticket into doing dentistry.
So going back to new grads, you know, as I said that I don't hire new grads and it's nothing against them. Like what is my recommendation to new grads? Well, first of all, it's what Paul said, you know, go do a GPR. Like that is a great way to do it. If whether you do or don't do a GPR, another great first stepping stone is public health. I did 3 years of public health. You want to talk about doing like free dental? I basically felt like I was doing free dental days for 3 years. I was in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. You know, we took Medicaid, which a lot of offices did. We were one of the only places in you know, a large mile radius that took Medicaid. We had, for those that didn't have Medicaid, didn't qualify for Medicaid, we had a sliding fee scale where we were doing crowns for like $150. So, you know, we were able to provide crowns to patients that otherwise could have never afforded them. And I did that for 3 years. So the nice thing is I got a lot of reps in, you know, restorative, crown and bridge, surgical extractions, taking out wisdom teeth, doing molar endo, like all these things that are super important to you and your bread and butter dentistry skills. I got a lot of reps helping people that otherwise wouldn't have had any help. And on top of that, I got a small portion of student loans, paid for from that. So that's a great opportunity as well. If you don't want to do that, I think DSOs have a place, and I know Bob D disagrees with me there, but I
Bob
think
D so
for
angry with the
Well,
word
Bob D
DSO.
talks about though, but I want to echo that I believe your advice is awesome about public health and the GPR. The thing I just want to caution, and Matt, you can share, is that if you work for a DSO or in a satellite practice of a private practice owner to get experience, if you're the only dentist in the office all the time, you're going to ingrain bad habits. So one of the
Yes,
questions I ask people to ask every time
100%.
is, how often will I be the only dentist in the office? Because I've seen people who play golf for 20 years and are worse when they at the end than when they started. So I believe that if it's a
Well,
rodeo dental, one of my job connect
yeah,
clients that has residencies, that if so it should be, if you work for a DSO or group where they have you working in a practice by yourself out of dental school, it can be very difficult to get better if no one's bigger or stronger to help you get better. So
that's
I
fair.
agree with you. I just think you have to ask the right questions, because some of these DSOs are scrambling to keep offices open. And they just say, "Hey, Dr. Matt out of dental school, go work in Tallahassee, Florida. It's a great office. The team's great." And you get there and be like, "I don't know how to do a crown. I don't know how to check hygiene. And I'm here by myself." So that is just my
I
caveat is
I think that's
that,
great, man. And I'll tell you real quick a little bit more about my trajectory. So my I did not do a GPR. My first year in public health, I was in their main facility, where I had the dental director and three other more senior dentists working there.
that's
So
awesome.
when I got into these surgical extractions, when I got into these molar endos, if I got in trouble, I had someone that I could
Yeah.
bring in to help me. So it almost was like my GPR at that first year of public health. After that first year, they offered for me to go to their satellite, even further out, their satellite office, and basically be like, "Hey, we think you'd be great to run this office." It was a smaller office. I was going to be the only doctor there. So what kind of happened is they took the training wheels off after that first year, and then I got to go practice kind of being in a private practice by myself. And I think that really helped take things to the next level, because now I knew I couldn't count on someone to come in and bail me out. So I had to figure it out myself.
But
So
you had the experience of the being bailed out. So
I
it's
had
like
that first year experience
that's
of
why
being
it's,
bailed out.
I think that's a
Yep,
perfect way to do it.
I agree. So I think that's a, because here's the other problem is if you have that's the only experience you have. You've got a bunch of dentists that can bail you out, and then all of a sudden you try to transition, into a very fast paced private practice where you're by yourself. That can be a challenge as well. So it's like I went from public health with help to public health without help to private practice
Yeah,
without help. So I think it was
makes
like
sense.
that nice transition forward, in my career. But either way, guys, if you're a new grad, I do think these are some great opportunities. I do think a DSO can be a good opportunity, because some of the DSOs honestly have great training. They have great clinical directors. They have great CE that they offer. And that's something, unfortunately, even with my dental group, like, we don't have a dental director. I don't have the time, besides our onboarding, I don't have the time to do serious mentorship,
Yeah.
with young dentists. Like, I can't create my own GPR just because of my bandwidth right now. Now, if we grow bigger and I'm able to bring in a dental director and add some more of that mentorship, maybe we'll start hiring new grads. I just don't think right now that I have the capabilities to properly train a new grad. I need them to go learn somewhere else, and then once they get up to speed, then they can come join my group. So
That's a perfect way to look at it.
I think it's really important to understand that experience doesn't equal good.
Yeah.
If somebody just gives you the opportunity of experience without guidance or without some sort of mentorship or personal development in that skill set, you can't just give someone tools and a subject and say, "Go get good at it. Come back to me later." Doing isn't the best form of learning. Best form of learning is someone else taking their knowledge and transferring it to you in a practical sense. And I couldn't imagine. I never even thought about it until you guys just brought it up. I couldn't imagine being an associate and being hired by somebody and being thrown in the
Yeah.
satellite office and being like, "Oh, here's some patients and some staff. Hope you figure it out." That's like in the military. That's like skipping your advanced training after basic training and being thrown right into a deployment and given a team to lead and saying, "I hope you figure it out. It's life or
you're
death."
setting them
I
up
mean,
for
these are
failure.
these are humans.
It is. And it's not going to be
Yeah,
their fault when they fail. It's going to be your fault. But
but the other doc's not going to own it though.
yeah,
He's going to say, "I can't get a good associate. I can't find that good associate. Like all the associates I get can't do it." It's
right.
like, what investment did you make in the individual as a leader? You made zero.
So, in these last 10 minutes or so, guys, because then
Yeah.
we'll have to wrap up.
Sure.
But I want to shift gears a little bit, Paul. I want to talk a little bit about dental nachos community, kind of
Sure.
how that was formed, how you came up with the idea, what your intentions were. And just, I know the kind of basic background is that you're trying to make the dental community a more inclusive, welcoming place. You want to have dentists help build each other up rather than tear each other down, which I think is great, because obviously not all dentists feel that way. Dentistry hasn't always been that way. It's kind of been a dog eat dog profession. So if you sorry guys, if you could just talk a little bit about
Sure.
that would be great.
So I was in Kansas for the first time lecturing for Audrey Ward Study Club, and Dr. Ed came up to me as we were they got nachos for me. And I said, Dr. Ed, when did you graduate from dental school? He said, 1977. I said, thanks so much for being here, because I've been speaking for 15 years. And I always like that when someone has graduated dental school, as long as I've been alive. And as I get older, that's getting tougher. So I was born in 1977. And he had never really heard of dental nachos. So when people ask me about it, I say it's like a Mr. Rogers neighborhood for dentists, because dentists are really good at being nice to patients, not so good at being nice to each other. We teach them how to collaborate instead of compete. We teach them that it's not all about, tearing others down. It's about sharing what you know. And he said, that's really great, because my dental school was brutal and tore me down. And 46 years later, dental school is brutal and tears people down. So maybe at some point we should look at this feeling. Maybe at some point when someone pays $100, $200, $300, $400,000, $500,000 and leave feeling broken down and less than, the whole dental school experience we looked at. But I'm helping people after that, and helping dental students. I mean, I literally had someone reach out to me. I got to connect with you. Andrew's a multi-practice owner in the Midwest. He said, dental nachos helped me stay in dental school. I wanted to quit. And now I'm hiring multiple associates a few years out of dental school.
I love it.
So
that's awesome.
One of my last lines in a video once, which I show a lot, was, no one likes the dentist. We may as well like each other, right? So my whole point is like, hey guys, all day long we're told about how much people hate us, how much we're ripping them off. Let's find a place where we collaborate. Let's find a place where we champion each other. And it's taken off in a way I never expected. My awesome wife, who's in the background, she helped me come up with the name. I did work in a Mexican restaurant called Casa La Pita. I do love Mexican food. Nachos are meant to be shared. They do get messy, right? There's a comedian that said you'd fight your grandmother for the last nacho chip on the plate, right? And Matt, you would like this, because so it's 2017, February. I start this group, okay? And I think people thought that it was just to post pictures of their nachos. So people would be posting pictures of nachos, and it's like the golden retriever puppy of appetizers. So it was getting a lot of attention. Those are good. Those look cheap. I love those. Where'd you get them? So much so that what's funny is, in some ways, the right word isn't celebrity, because that sounds arrogant, but I was almost like, there weren't many Facebook groups back then, okay? Just a few. So people would text me, and I would open up my phone, and it would be a picture of nachos. And they go, Paul, I want to let you know I'm eating nachos, but I don't think they're worthy of posting on the group. And I go, I'm not this I don't know what you would call me. This
you became the nacho judge.
So, and then I like to talk about implants, practice management, dental school. So it grew from that one member 2017 to over 56,000 today. I never knew it turned into like a business. I got an amazing business coach, Aldana Am, where I was having like a fun, nervous breakdown in 2018, teaching implants, running practice, doing this nacho thing. Sponsors like you guys, Matt, helped me run this thing. I describe it like a free park. You're all in Philadelphia, Rittenhouse Square Park. It's totally free. On the weekend, they sell beer, wine, flowers. I don't understand this about dentists. Why do they get mad at things they don't have to buy? I don't understand that. Not once have I walked into Whole Foods, be like, I'm on a diet. Don't show me the cheese. I just walk on by and don't buy the cheese. So I hope that I have kindly annoyed and created uncomfortable conversations about, maybe someone wants marketing from Energize and you don't. You can just not connect with them. And I think that dentists are so dysfunctional about how they spend money, because many will spend more on a 5-day vacation than they will on making their practice better. That my hope is all of this commotion has helped people understand, be like, hey, maybe getting a coach is a good idea. And if I don't need a coach, I don't have to tell people who need a coach that they're losers, right? I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Like my children, it's awesome. They're awesome and exhausting. And, the greatest thing that I think from it is people have met each other through dental nachos that I've never met personally in the real world. you guys came to my event. I'm a much more of a face-to-face person. It's just not practical to always. So I always hope that I always say online's for awareness and person's for action. So I love going to the Dental Success Summit. I love going to my events. I love going to some random event. And, I was in an elevator last night. Someone's like, "You're the nacho guy, right?" I'm like, "Yep, that's me." So I'm thrilled. And, I've learned this, and Matt, maybe you know this more as a marketer. The people who really love dental nachos never post on it, right? The people who spend time on it. So it's kind of cool that there's all these people that are consuming, pun intended, and it's not their thing to post. It's not their thing to comment. But, they say you're doing a great thing for dentistry. And, dentists can have nice places. Remember our moms were like, this is why we can't have nice things when we messed everything up. Sometimes I do say this when people are yelling at each other on the group. But it's been a fun, wild, awesome adventure. No people like Andrew knew through it. So the good far outweighs the bad.
Well, I do a lot of, actually 99% of my posts are non-dental, non-business related. I just like those posts and they get interaction. I'm going to start posting pictures of my nachos.
Yeah. I love your cheat post. I always say I did a podcast with Rob Montgomery. We're starting it again. If anybody ever wants to listen, it's the origin story of nachos. And I always say, bring your normal person self first and your weird dentisting self second. And I want to tell you something, Matt. Andrew and I went to school to be professionally weird. You chose to work with us. So maybe you're the weirdest of all. Maybe the sponsors have voluntarily chosen to work with us, Andrew. We did a hard time becoming professionally weird.
Man, if I wasn't a dentist, I probably wouldn't choose to work with dentists. So that does say something,
shit.
Matt. I don't know what you were thinking, but I think that's great, Paul. It really fills my bucket to go to these live events. Honestly, I wish I can go to more of them. I get FOMO sometimes missing some of these events. I feel bad missing events, but at the same time, when you've got a young family, it's tough. It's tough to travel too much. You have to pick and choose. But I'll tell you what, man, like groups like Nachos where dentists do really try to build each other up, and groups like DSI, Mark's mastermind group, it's incredible. I've met some really, really just good people with similar abundance mindsets. I've got my own little mini mastermind within the DSI groups. There's these 6 of us dentists, we're all around the same age. We're kind of doing similar stuff. And we actually meet usually once a month on Zoom just to kind of talk about what's going on in our practices and stuff. So dentistry can be a lonely island. And I think a lot of, especially solo practitioners, feel that way.
It's a tough job.
I mean, you introduced me to Michael McKay, and I think he's my friend now. I mean, we need more friends. And, Mark's group, the gym, I think the gym culture is actually one of the most kind and inclusive cultures. We have this trainer who comes and he's very powerful, strong guy. He'd go spot an 80-year-old grandmother and say, you could do it. I think, Mark's gym culture mentality. I've never been inside of something where there's just no judgment. Someone has 10 practices, someone has 1 practice. I mean, find your communities, and you can be part of more than one community. Find your people who make you feel good instead of not good, because it's easy not to feel good as a dentist. You get told every day how people don't want to be with you.
So speaking of Mark Costas, I know, Paul, that you taught him everything he knows about EBITDA and bicep. Our listeners already know about EBITDA. We've that's amazing. Our listeners already know about EBITDA. We've talked about it quite a bit over the episodes, but some of our listeners might not know a lot about biceps. Can you give your number one tip to our listeners so that they can grow their biceps like you and Mark Costas?
Yeah, I mean, I love this. And my number one tip is, in the 1990s, all we did was bicep curls and bench press, and we became lopsided. It was not the way to work out. They've now determined you do core activity, you do cardio, you want total body fitness. So your dental core is your mind skills, your word skills, your heart skills, and your hand skills. So the bicep joke is, if you just work on your biceps, you're going to become lopsided. You're not going to create the dental physique you need to navigate this world. So my number one tip is, don't pay just attention to biceps. If we use that as clinical training, pay attention to your business training, your leadership training, how you speak to people training. So look at the 2024 version of fitness, from Pilates to flexibility to core activities, and not just do biceps and bench presses like Mark Costas and I did back in the 1990s. And that is my biggest message. My biggest takeaway: learn how to talk to people, listen to How to Speak by Patrick Winston. It transforms your life inside and outside of the operatory.
That's great, man. Yeah, guys. So make sure you're networking, make sure you're connecting with dentists, go to live events. Seriously, I feel like, unfortunately in today's day and time, it's so easy to take online CE and you don't have to jump on a plane. You don't have to travel somewhere. but I get so much more out of these live events, and it's not just sitting in the course, being shoulder to shoulder with other dentists. It's also grabbing dinner afterwards, getting
Yeah.
drinks, getting to know people. So I think that's huge. I think if you could take one thing from this episode, besides maybe learning a little bit about bringing on an associate dentist, it's go to more live CE events. I never regret it. I always come back feeling recharged. So I think that's about it from me. I want to be respectful of your time, Paul.
Yeah.
Matt, anything else that you
Sure.
had or want to wrap it up?
No, let's wrap it up there. Hey, Paul, thanks for coming on. That was a great conversation. That was awesome to hear everything from hiring associates to integrating them into your team to the stresses of running dental
Yeah.
nachos to how it started out with nachos. I never thought about the idea of just posting pictures of my nachos. There's going to be a nacho
Oh, I
post
love
from
it.
Matt Brown here in the next few weeks of are these nachos any good? Was
You
everyone's
rate them. I
opinion?
think I could probably revive a rate these nachos. Like a fun thing. It's a
Dude, I would love. That's actually my favorite part of nachos is the human contact. I have docs talk to me about like the contact we talk about off roading or scuba
yeah,
diving
that's
or
awesome.
things we have in common, and and then I see them at events and I'm like, hey, you been diving? And I'm like, I have no idea who you are, but no, I haven't. That's all. I saw you commented on this person's comment about diving, and I dive too, but I didn't comment, but I like to dive. Okay, cool. We'll connect.
I love
The
that.
human connection really matters. It's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Hey, listeners, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit follow. Please leave us a positive review. If you've listened to an episode or if this episode is helpful to you, please share it on social media so other people can get the benefit. There's no sponsors. Me and Andrew do this as unbiasedly as possible to provide content for you guys that is really helpful and beneficial. Thank you so much, guys. It's been an awesome episode. Andrew, do you have anything to say before we sign off?
Nope. Great talking with you as always, Paul. I hope you have a incredible weekend and keep working on those 3-point shots.
Yeah, you too, guys. Great talk. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day.